I understand fully how hectic it is to be a working mother, holding down a W-2, having young kids, trying to figure out some sort of balance and still being stressed out that you're not performing well enough at work and in home and, feeling that you can never be 100% in either or. And then finding this journey where passive income just gave me much more peace of mind, gave me a lifestyle that matched my priorities a lot better.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I am your host, as always, Yona Weiss, and I am pleased to be joined today by another incredible guest. That's right, we have Kathy Jang, all the way from beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. What's going on, Kathy? How you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. I'm very honored to be on the podcast. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I always look for great guests, and especially those who participate in my 10-day LinkedIn challenge have a special place in my heart. So I appreciate you for taking the time doing that. And I'm sure you gained a little from that.
It was an absolute game changer for me. I've never really been involved with LinkedIn until this challenge came along and just turned things upside down.
Right? I mean, you probably had LinkedIn as just like a platform for many, many years, I'm sure, right? You had it listed, your resume there, your jobs.
Exactly. And pretty much just left it at that really until your challenge came about and started posting daily. And I've never had so many people view my LinkedIn before. I was hitting upwards of 5,000 some views, and it was incredible, and that's really awesome. Got to connect with a lot of people from the past as well. So
that's actually something I wanted to ask you about, because you are, for our listeners who want a little background, I mean, you are a real estate investor, you are a multifamily syndicator, which is probably something a lot of people are familiar with, but you had a very, strong professional career for many, many years and have transitioned out of that. But what I'm curious about is obviously, and I'd love to touch on that a little bit while we're on the topic, you worked for several, very large corporations over the years and companies. You had a lot of coworkers, I'm sure, right? And so you said people from your past life or people from your previous jobs or whatever, like reaching out to you, like, what was that about? Is this the first time people were aware that you were involved in real estate investing?
Great question. So I think because it's such a huge departure from what I was doing in the past. Out of undergraduate school, I was in consulting. And then out of my MBA school, I went into medical devices. So different from real estate, right? And, every now and then I do post about real estate on my social channels, but unless I'm talking to people on a personal level, they don't know that I made this huge transition into real estate. And LinkedIn was such a powerful platform to kind of educate people on my new journey in life because it just from a professional perspective and a platform perspective allowed me to educate people on what this is all about, because people that are focused in consulting or in medical devices don't necessarily know much about multifamily syndications or what it is about. And so it was intriguing enough where people saw that I was doing something new, no idea what syndications was. So I was getting calls on just, this sounds interesting. What is it? What is a syndication?
That's so cool. And that's how you build, these relationships and build, potential investors as well, which is a huge opportunity. One of the reasons why I push people to use it is because it is such a powerful professional platform. And especially you have a lot of people in corporate America, they don't know what options are out there. Most people are just fed. You have to put into your 401k, you have to, put into your retirement account, and that's it. And they're not necessarily told. I don't blame them either, because they're so busy with what they're doing. They don't have the time to be, venturing off and looking at just random things that they're not, that's not top of mind for them. So totally understand that. So how did you get pulled into this? I mean, from a busy corporate life into You didn't have
That's a
time
great
for it.
question. We kind of fell into it, So when I went to get my MBA, we were living in the Bay Area and we owned a townhome. And by we, I mean my husband and I. And so my MBA school was actually located in Chicago. And so we were going to be out there for 2 years and with an empty house in the Bay Area. So that was our first rental.
Okay.
We got a property manager to, kind of manage the day-to-day for us. And fell in love with real estate there. So it was not something that we were specifically looking to do, but had a need for. And luckily, I think that really made us aware of the great benefits of passive income.
Right.
And from there, we were hooked.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, obviously, when you have your own property and like you said, you fell into it by accident, really. How long did it take you from learning about that, like just kind of accidentally renting your property out until you went more full-time into it?
Yeah, it did take us a while because we were completely doing things passively for a long time. So we started to build out more single family homes and really in the Bay Area, because that's where we just felt more comfortable with. And until we felt like we were educated in the space and comfortable with it, did we go out of state to really start getting the cash flow, right? And then after a while, we were just like, this is great for retirement planning. We want to scale this. But we did the numbers back at the napkin and we're like, we can't do 100 single family homes to replace both of our incomes. That's not going to work. How do we make this work?
Wow.
That's where the syndications, multifamily came into play. Yeah. And, both of us were still W-2 at that point. So we were still passively investing in multifamilies when we were both W-2.
Oh, okay. But let me just ask you something like literally you did a back of the napkin like calculation and it would have taken you 100 single families to get to, to replace your income. And that's just crazy. And that's not really passive. It's not, unless they're totally like turnkey and you have like a property managers.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just administratively difficult to handle once you get close to 10, just to keep track of things. And, we were in different states and different property managers, tax situations, tracking everything.
Right.
It was a lot. And so that really just kind of magnifies the beauty of multifamily, really, because then we were playing with greater economies of scale and, never looked back once we did multifamily for sure.
Amazing. Yeah. And so now that's something you're taking on a more full-time role, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have since left my W-2 when my passive income was able to cover my W-2 income. And so now I'm a full-time real estate professional. And now I'm active and I'm syndicating. My main focus now is the Phoenix market since I'm living here. But I started off actually in Kansas City, which I still syndicate in as well.
That's great. Also great market. We literally just interviewed someone else from Kansas City and talked about the city and talked about some of the benefits of investing in the Midwest and specifically that market. So definitely a great market. And Phoenix is hot like any other place in the world. It's probably the most hot market for multifamily. How do you find deals?
Agreed.
Like that's really my question.
Yeah, no, great question to add it because it was hard. When I first moved here, I really try to, ramp up because I'm familiar with multifamily. Obviously, I've been doing it in Kansas City. But when I came out to Phoenix and tried to land deals out here, things were not penciling out. And I quickly realized it was just because by the time I got the deal with these new brokers that I'm trying to form relationships with, 100 other people had already passed on the deal. And so that's when I started to reach out to more experienced syndicators that, worked in the market. I work very closely with a company called Vertical Street Ventures.
Sure.
They're my role models. And then also I worked with Easy Real Estate as well. And whenever Elisa was in town, I would shadow her, get to know brokers through her, and just learn strategy from her as well. And so, for me right now, for my properties that I have in Phoenix, I have been partnering with Vertical Street Ventures. They've been in the marketplace longer than I have, and it's been a very great partnership where, I'm able to support them where I can. And, I get to leverage their experience in the marketplace, and it's been working very well.
That's great. That's awesome. And that's really the lesson that I've heard over and over and over again is you don't have to go out on your own and find others who are much more experienced than you. And even if you have the experience, you can still leverage others' experience and also just the power of having a team and having people, the resources.
Yeah. And vice versa. I also try to give back. So, as new deals come on board, we try to engage newer people as well, show them the ropes, because I really do believe this real estate journey is life-changing. And the more people that we can educate and help along this process has been so worthwhile and so meaningful. So I enjoyed that aspect tremendously as well.
Now, we talk about a lot on this podcast, and it's come up a few times recently that when you're going full-time into real estate, you retired, right? You resigned from your W-2 job. That was something you had been doing for years, but now really have another job. I mean, it's not like you've retired and you're just, hanging out on the beach, or there's no beach in Phoenix, but all day. So how do you compensate for that? Because, one of the reasons that you retired was obviously you wanted more free time. You wanted to be able to spend time with your kids. And that's something that is very honorable. But now having a real estate as your new job, I mean, do you see it conflicting, or are you able to kind of make your own time, your own hours and everything?
That's a great question, because I struggled with that for a while. And, I love working, but I think that the difficulty that I had when I was in my W-2 job was the freedom to use time as I wanted. So, it was hard for me while I was in a W-2 to prioritize my time for things that were more meaningful to me. So for me, I kind of sat down with my husband and we just set our goals of what our intentions were, what we wanted to focus on. And of course, family was at the top of that list. And as being in the syndication world, I think, yes, we work hard, don't get me wrong, but we are able to formulate our hours in a way that works for us. So if I do need to take an hour off in the middle of the afternoon to take my kids to their soccer practice, I can. And, coming from that W-2 job, for me, it's like I am full of gratitude that I'm able to actually do something like that, because I was never able to in the past. And if it's volunteering at school, I couldn't do that as a W-2 worker either. And so I find it to be such a blessing, these small things in life, but that things that actually mean a lot and are significant to me, I'm able to do as a real estate professional.
Absolutely. And I think when you're able to make that own time, and we all struggle with that. I mean, especially those of us who have families, who have kids, want to make sure we're not missing anything. We want to make sure we're giving them our full attention, especially at the times when we're with them. And I think that's, to me as a parent, one of the most important things I try to do is, focus at least the time that I am with them, be fully with them and not be distracted with your phone or with work or with anything else, because that can be, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're someone who is just real estate investing, you may get a call at any time. You may get, property manager or an investor calling up at a certain time, but it's important to kind of make those boundaries. And I think when you realize that, the sooner you realize that, the more success you'll have.
Yeah. And I think it's something that I've been really trying to be intentional about, because it's not easy for me to balance that out. But at least being a real estate professional, I think it's enabled me to have much greater freedom when it comes to that. And I appreciate that.
100%. So how did you find Kansas City out of curiosity from the Bay Area? Like, did you have any ties to that market beforehand, or, how did you stumble upon Kansas City?
Right. So we were looking at metrics. In general, we love to look at population growth, job diversity, things like that. And so we really cut down the list of major metros and identified just a handful that we wanted to focus on. And based off of those metrics, Kansas City was one of the 5. And so my partners and I we just really dug into the handful of metros and underwrote everything that came on the market. And, we underwrote from, all 5 metros, but Kansas City was one that we were just able to consistently find deals in and that made sense and that, we really just wanted to pursue. And so it kind of shook out that way for us.
That's great. I mean, that's the way to do it. I mean, if you don't know where you want to focus on, just obviously focus on the metrics. And there's a lot of data out there. If anyone's looking, there's, CoStar and CBRE and all these different brokerage houses put out a lot of data on a quarterly basis. And you can really learn a lot about job growth and all these different things that are going to contribute to the growth of these markets. So that's cool.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And all the fundamentals were there from the data analysis. So it made sense for us.
And what are you doing? What do you enjoy most about the multifamily? Obviously, this is something you're educating people all the time, especially investors and others who are trying to do the similar thing. But what is it most about it that just pulls you?
Yeah, I think I've been able to make the most impact through this career choice as opposed to in the past. And, I think because it has enabled me to have a lifestyle that is so much more meaningful to me, has made me that much more passionate about just educating people about it as well. And so, I understand fully how hectic it is to be a working mother, holding down a W-2, having young kids, trying to figure out some sort of balance and still being stressed out that you're not performing well enough at work and in home and, feeling that you can never be 100% in either or. And then finding this journey where passive income just gave me much more peace of mind, gave me a lifestyle that matched my priorities a lot better, and it just enabled me a lifestyle that has been so meaningful. And I want that for other people. And, that's why I like and really enjoy just educating people on it.
For sure. So besides for the education, I mean, you say it's giving you the ability to make an impact. Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's, it tends to be frequently other moms that are reaching out to me saying, hey, like what can I do to build my passive income, right? Because they don't want to be in this 9 to 5 forevermore. And so it's one step at a time and just educating them on opportunities, whether or not syndication is the right thing, but just, real estate in general, I think opens up a lot of doors and possibilities for people.
Sure. One of the barriers that I found, and, maybe this is something that you had experience with also, or maybe some mothers, working mothers may have the same, I guess, challenge, is that sometimes investing in real estate requires you to be an accredited investor and it requires you to have obviously some capital, right, to put away. Not everyone has, this huge amount of capital putting aside for that time that they're going to invest in real estate. So like, how do you educate people on what they can do if they're not necessarily in that situation where maybe they're not an accredited investor yet, and maybe they don't have, $50,000, $100,000 just sitting around, to invest in real estate?
Yeah. Aside from being an accredited investor, we actually do have 506B syndication opportunities as well. So that means they can, instead of being an accredited investor, sophisticated investors also qualify. And so if they are knowledgeable enough about investments and financials, then they're able to invest in the 506B syndications, which is great. And,
right.
I tell them, although we typically do set minimums for investments, if we need to work something out to just get them in the game, I'm happy to do so because, this journey, I think, can benefit a lot of people. And by all means, if I can help with that, I'm more than happy to, but everyone's journey is different. And for other people, it could be maybe they, would want to, do a single family rental or explore Airbnb, and we will discuss other options that might work better for their circumstances and, see what's the best fit for them.
Absolutely. It's great because, like I said, it is a challenge, but when you have someone like yourself who is giving the opportunities to other people, you're opening up doors. And so if maybe someone can't get in that door. You find a way to get them in, because like you said, the ability, if someone can invest maybe $10,000 or something, and that's going to make a huge impact on them. Maybe it's relatively small for some person, but for that person, it's actually going to just going to allow them to get in the game and see the impact and the results that investment can have. I mean, I think it's well worth it. And giving those opportunities are, you gotta do what you can. You gotta do with what you have.
Right. And, I'm happy to connect people, and leverage whatever resources that I have. So even if it's not, if they're not able to invest in my syndications, but there's something that I know would be a better fit, I am happy to make that connection to. It could be someone else that I know or whatnot. And I think that's the power of just our real estate community overall. People are so willing to help other people out. A lot of people tend to have a growth mindset where, we're always just trying to continue to, become better individuals as well.
100%. That's one of the things I love the most about like the multifamily space is that, a lot of different businesses, and I'm sure maybe you've had this experience, people can be a little bit cutthroat or not the abundant mindset that you find within this community. I think a lot of people are trying to leave that kind of toxic environment they may have had in a corporate workplace, or they're just a growth oriented person and trying to become better people, not just trying to make more money, which I think corporate America has. What can you do to make more money? Like, how can you be successful? It's the defining success is totally based on, what job ranking or seniority or amount of money that you have. So that's something that I've found. And the funny thing is, I asked this question at the end, I'll ask to you as well shortly, is what does success mean to you? And out of the 200 plus episodes we've recorded, I think only one person actually focused on money. I was surprised by that. They were talking about, I'd like to have, this and this and this. And to me, that was surprising, because everyone else, it's about more. It's about impact. It's about freedom. It's about, what we can do, but not about money and not about stature.
Right. It's not our end goal by any means.
For sure. So on that note, Kathy, I would love to transition now to what we call the final four. And these are 4 questions I ask all my guests. And the first question to you is, what is the worst job that you ever had?
I think, by definition, I'm going to say flipping burgers at Sonic. But relatively speaking, I actually still enjoyed it. It's probably the worst job I had. But, it was such a growth experience because it was so drastically different from all of the other more white collar jobs that I've had. I've learned so much from the individuals that I worked with, and what a hard day's labor is and all of that good stuff. But, in the end, it was a learning moment for me. So I want to change that.
For sure. And I'm just going to assume that was when you were young.
It was actually, I already had a job coming out of undergraduate school, but it was kind of a learning opportunity that I took just right after college.
Listen, it sounds like it was a learning opportunity, so good for you. But no, it's awesome because, the worst job doesn't necessarily have to be a bad job. It just, it's relatively, when you look at your overall perspective. But some people have some war stories, so it's always fun to hear different perspectives. But second question for you, what is a book that you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Yeah, Atomic Habits comes to mind. So, sometimes I get overwhelmed by tasks at hand, just feeling like there's so much that needs to be done. But with Atomic Habits, it's more about just putting bite-sized pieces that kind of go into your daily habits to make that change easier. So, if I'm always drinking coffee in the mornings, what habit can I tie to that to create an increment change in my life? So being able to break things down into small bite-sized pieces have been game-changing, really. It just makes it so much easier to create change.
Absolutely. Awesome book. Definitely highly recommended. So we'll put that in the show notes if anyone wants to check Atomic Habits out. Awesome. Third question. What's a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
That's a good question. So my kids have been going into martial arts. So as a kid, I was in martial arts, in Taekwondo in particular, but I am thinking of picking up karate with them just because I think for just every day, just being able to like really understand how to, first of all, self-defense is fantastic, but also just to ensure that you're able to, be able to have the flexibility and the mobility and all of that stuff has been phenomenal watching their growth. And so I think it'd be fun to partake in it too.
There you go. Yeah, why not? Just don't join the same class, and right? Like Kramer, if everyone remembers that Seinfeld episode where Kramer was fighting the kids in the dojo. Okay, that was fourth and final question. What does success mean to you?
Yeah, it's funny because I know you mentioned this and I didn't intend to copy what you said, but it absolutely rings true for me as well. But success for me at the end of the day is freedom and impact. So freedom in the sense that I can determine the priorities in my life and how I want to use my time. Mm-hmm. And then impact in the sense of how do I help the community around me? How do I help other people to the best of my ability? And that makes what I do so much more meaningful. It gives me something to wake up and look forward to. So definitely what I consider success.
Awesome. So good to speak with you, Kathy. I appreciate you taking the time today. Where can our listeners find you or reach out to you?
Absolutely. So this is my website, diamondpointhomes.com. All of my socials are on there so they can figure out whatever works best for them to contact me.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well. And, just appreciate you taking the time out of your day and wish you much continued success and looking forward to seeing some of your karate moves.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Awesome. And to our listeners, thank you again for joining once again until the end. And remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.